Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Thursday, April 13th, 2017, and this is episode 14. My name is Carol and I'm known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. I live in the Fraser Valley, not too far from Vancouver, British Columbia. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog at astitchintimepodcast.blogspot.ca. And if you'd like, you can come join the Ravelry group, which can be found by searching A Stitch in Time Podcast under the Groups tab. It's getting more active all the time. It's nice to see some activity there. Thanks for everyone who participates on the board there. I'm hosting an Agatha Christie along, just a very fun knitter crochet along that I'm holding in conjunction with reading my way through my Agatha Christie collection. And so rules are very simple, just knit or crochet anything that you can tie into Agatha Christie, whether it be a pattern that's named for one of her characters or the titles of her books or Agatha Christie herself or anything that makes you think that you can tie it into Agatha Christie. It's very relaxed. The main goal is just to get to know each other and to admire everyone else's work, because it's always fun to see what everyone's knitting. Thanks to everyone who has gotten in touch with me this week. I always appreciate hearing from you and all the kind things you have to say. Thank you. And if you're watching today, it's not quite a typical episode. I'm flying a little bit by the seat of my pants this week, so bear with me. But thank you for joining me. And if you're returning, thanks for coming back. A lot of podcasters say that, and I know I really do mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's been a really fun adventure so far, and I'd be no point doing it if no one was watching, so thank you. So I feel like I'm out of breath. It's already about 5:45 in the evening. I wasn't sure if I'd get to podcast today. I had a friend over who was working on the trim for our downstairs bedroom. That's the room that didn't get flooded. So he was here till about 5 o'clock, and so I'm trying to get this episode in before my husband gets home from work. I don't know that that's going to happen, but he's been forewarned, so he'll be really quiet when he gets here. And I've shut the door, so he won't hear me talking. I'm just going to take a quick sip of tea, and then we'll talk about this week's episode. Oh, it's nice and hot. I've got my Anna's hummingbird mug today, and that's in honor of the hummingbirds that have returned to our feeder this week. We normally have the Anna's hummingbird around all year round in this area. For the last few years, that's something that's been happening as the weather has generally gotten warmer. This year I had them up until about mid-December, and then we had some very bitterly cold weather and wind, and they disappeared, and I honestly thought that they had died. We had 2 feeders, and I was changing them out every hour or so just to prevent them from, like, as one would freeze, I'd bring the next one in and rotate them. And so when they stopped showing up, I felt really sad. But got at least one female Anna's back, and I actually saw a male Rufus hummingbird. That's the other variety that we get here, and they're only seasonal. They're here for the spring and summer. So very excited to see them back. I never get tired of seeing hummingbirds. They're very special. Very special birds. This week I do have a little bit of some show notes. I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing and some works in progress. A little bit about what's coming up knitting-wise. I have a few acquisitions this week. I'll talk a little bit about what I'm reading, and then I'll also talk a little bit about what's been going on this week and what's coming up in the week ahead. So, what I'm wearing. I'm going to insert right here a full-length picture of this cardigan that I'm wearing. So it is called Stripes Gone Crazy, and it's by Atelier Alpha. I knit this sometime between June and September 2014, and the yarn I used is Madeline Tosh Tosh Merino Light. This is the Thunderstorm colorway. It's kind of, I'll bring it up closer. It's kind of a, you can see black with blue in it. And then these stripes are rainwater. And I don't know if you can tell on camera. Yeah, I guess a little bit. The pattern called for 2 skeins of the lighter color. And I think I had already owned 1 skein, and then I acquired another, and they were quite different. One is more blue and one is more gray. So what I ended up doing is alternating my stripes with each color. And as it turned out, I would have had enough with just 1 skein, but I didn't know that, so I'm glad that I did it. And it's just builds something into the design. So as you can see, I'll stand up here to get a little bit closer look. You can see that on the front of the cardigan, it alternates between the wide stripes and the narrow stripes. And then you have the opposite sleeve with the narrow stripe, and then the sleeve with the wide stripes. And as you saw in the video, the main feature of this cardigan is that across the back, the stripes morph from narrow to wide in a diagonal fashion. The construction, as always, I'm interested in interesting construction. So the construction of this one definitely caught my eye right away, and I had a lot of fun knitting it because it was so unusual. The striping was done with short rows, and that helped shape it. So it's a cardigan I've actually worn quite a bit. I often will wear it with a black t-shirt that just follows this line underneath it. I feel a little more covered up. It's just too warm today, so I didn't want another layer. I actually didn't wear it at all this year, and it's just such a silly thing. I had taken it out to wear, and I had a hole. Let me just find out where it is. Where it was, right here. And I'm not sure that it was a moth hole. It was one area where the strand of yarn had broken. It was literally 1 stitch that had broken. And where moth, you usually have other places that have been chewed. But in any case, there was a hole here, so of course I didn't want to wear it. And I never took the time until this morning to actually fix it. So you can see I'm actually pretty proud of the job I did right here. And I've done this before with my garments. If it's only 1 row that's affected, what I'll do is I'll pick up along the row above it and the row beneath it with a DPN, each with a DPN, and then I'll Kitchener that hole closed. In this case, I worked over 5 stitches, so I actually have some stitches that are sitting on top of existing stitches, but it's a way of closing the hole and protecting the existing stitches on either side of the hole from unraveling further. And as you can see, it's really not that noticeable. Certainly, if I hadn't pointed it out to you, you probably wouldn't have noticed. So I'm glad I did that. I'm kind of sorry I really missed wearing it this year. Do you guys do that too? You put off a job that takes, in the end, 10 or 15 minutes tops, and all this time it's been sitting in my cupboard. I get mad at myself for things like that. Let's move on to some works in progress. I concentrated on a few projects this week. I'll show you first my Sherlock socks. This is just my plain stockinette socks that I work on while I'm driving in the car or watching TV, or not driving in the car, riding in the car. I don't drive and knit as a rule. They are being knit out of Knit Picks Felici in the Baker Street colorway. And I just have, I think, about 1.5 stripes to go before it's time to do the toes. So I've gotten quite a bit done. I'm in the same spot with both socks. So you can see all the way down to there. I did a contrasting or complementary heel in Knit Picks Stroll Dove Heather, I believe was the colorway. And it matches this light gray quite well. You can see, if I hold it close, you can see the line between the original yarn and the heel, but up. It blends quite well. It looks like I'm going to be knitting up to about halfway down this stripe is where, like, carrying on. This is the area in the pattern repeat or in the striping repeat that the toe is going to begin. So I'll end up with this lighter color in the toe area, and probably this navy will end up right at the tip of the toe. I had considered doing the toe in this complementary yarn, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'll be satisfied with the sort of the balance on, because these two colors appear up in the cuff and then they'll appear down in the toe. So I think I'm quite happy with that. So just a little bit more TV watching, and those will be done. And I just keep them in my little knit pickers sack. I've shown this before, and I keep all the things I need to knit socks on there. Stitch markers and row counters, little crochet hook just in case of emergencies, and it's just this is where I keep all of my just plain stockinette socks. Okay, so pardon me while I put that away. What's the next one I have on the list? My April rain socks. Now these have been coming. I'm calling these, yeah, my April rain socks. I'm just going to flip to last week's show notes because I have a little more detail there. They are the Spring Shower Socks by Christy H. Payne. And I am knitting them out of Soctopus Sokusu in the Spring Storm colorway. So there's the label for that. Now last week, this is exactly what I showed you. I had just finished one repeat on the back of the leg, and I had done the entire foot. But no, this is not last week's sock. That one I finished. I'll put it on a sock blocker so you can see it. So I've knit exactly one sock since I saw you last. Here we go. This is a toe-up sock with a gusset running along the bottom of the foot. That's the first time I've done that toe-up. As I mentioned last week, I'm not positive. I'd have to check still. I don't think the pattern itself had an eye of partridge heel, but as I started knitting this area here, there's some reinforcement, slip stitch reinforcement, and I substituted a different short row method and ended up doing eye of partridge, and so I carried it up the heel. And on the front there is this leafy flowery repeat or motif, and on the back these little stitch pattern. It looks like umbrellas. I'll take it off and show you a little bit closer. And then on the leg area, there are little series of yarn overs and knit two togethers that are supposed to be reminiscent of raindrops. So that means you have to pay a little more attention on the leg area, but that's okay. That helps, you know, sometimes when you get close to being finished your sock, that's when you need something that keeps your interest a little more. Otherwise, it can just be a little bit tedious. You want to be done by then. So there's a better look at that parasol, I think is what she actually calls it, parasol stitch motif. And then there's the front of the leg. Of course, they need a good blocking, but that gives you an idea. So yeah, these are for the Grocery Girls April Sock Bash. I don't know if I mentioned that. They have that's why I called them April Rain. They definitely have a spring shower theme. Not only are they called spring showers, but then the yarn has Spring Storm as its name. So I thought they were very fitting for April. So those have kept me very busy. I've been quite engaged with those this week and spent quite a lot of time on them. Next project is Oh, the Vicar's Wife socks. I'm knitting these for the Agatha Christie along. At the time I cast them on, I was reading The Vicar's Wife I was reading The Murder at the Vicarage, and I was looking for a pattern that was related to the book somehow and came across this one. And I've been quite enjoying it too. When I first started it, I explained last week, I added a stitch to each the front and the back just to adjust the stitch pattern a little bit to suit the OCD person living not so deep inside of me. And I found the first 20 rows or more not tedious exactly, but I definitely had to pay attention. And like anything, once I got going again, I found the stitch pattern, I realized it actually was not as difficult as it first appeared and had a pattern to it, literally. The front is only an 8-row repeat, and I think the back is about 20 rows, but very similar. So once I kind of twigged to the fact that it was actually quite a regular pattern, I found it a lot easier. So the socks are made to represent the May-December romance between the vicar and his wife, the vicar being the December and the wife being May. So there's a floral leafy print on the front. So yeah, this is only an 8-row repeat, this lace section. So once I realized that and realized that actually the number of stitches on either side of this yarn over, or this knit one with yarn overs on either side of it, once I realized there was actually a really predictable increase, they just increase once with each row, like 0 yarn over, purl the section, and then it's like 1 yarn over, 1 purl the section. Like once I realized that it was just like that, then it became a lot easier to follow, and you just knit a little bit further the first row before you do your yarn overs, and then that gradually less stitches on either side. So once I figured that out, that became a lot easier to follow. I didn't have to look at the chart every row. And then the back is really pretty. It's a very nice twisted stitch pattern, so it really shows, it really stands out. Now interestingly, in the pattern itself, these stitches are only every second row these stitches travel, and then in between is a rest row where you just purl the purl and knit the knits. Interestingly, I think it's on the cable rows, the pattern does not have you knit those knit stitches through the back of the loop. They're only knit through the back of the loop every second row, but I liked the idea of them really standing out. So I've been in this section, have been knitting these knit stitches through the back of the loop on every row, and I think it definitely gives more stitch definition to the design. So according to the pattern, I'm supposed to be doing 10 more rows before I do the heel, but this cuff has now reached the point where I like them to be. It's 7 inches long. If I went any further, I think I'd have a hard time having this fit my calf. It's just the right height now. So on the pattern itself, it ends at this area only on this side. So if I was to keep going, I would end up doing this motif and ending about there. So I'm just going to end it here. And the pattern has you do either this pattern down the back of your heel, or a regular kind of slip stitch heel. I haven't looked too closely yet, and I haven't decided which I'm going to do. I think it would look nice with this running down the back of the heel though, and most of the time I wear my hand knit socks with clogs, so the back is open and it wouldn't rub against this design or anything. So we'll see. So anyway, got the leg down on those, so that's been good. Oh, and I guess I should talk about the yarn. It is Ancient Arts yarn. And the colorway, as you can see, oh, is that upside down? Yes, it is. Flamboyant. And it is a 3-ply fingering, superwash merino nylon yarn. So I've quite enjoyed working with it. It's pretty color, and I like the way that the stitch definition is showing up with it. So I didn't pick these up again till yesterday, I guess. So I've got quite a bit done since yesterday. That's sort of been mostly what I've been working on. Take a sip of tea here. Did I say I'm drinking jasmine tea? It's really nice from David's Tea. I forget I have it, but it's got such a nice flavor to it. So my final work in progress, I believe, yes, is a sweater that I showed you last week for the first time. It's called All Over Lace. It's right there. And it's by Lana, oh, what do they call it? Let me just find my notes from last week. Lana Knits Designs. And it's made from All Hemp 6, which is a DK 100% hemp yarn. So I talked a little bit about last week about how difficult I was finding working with this yarn. It's quite coarse, kind of almost ropey, and does not feel good in your hands the way a wool does. There's no stretch to it. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but my first ball of this yarn, first cake of it was really twisting. I had a yarn ball that was stretched across the room and was knitting from it so that the yarn would have more distance to work out the twist before it got up to my knitting. I think it might be because I did end up winding these up more than once, and then I tried to wind them in the opposite direction. I had heard that with linen, someone's tip was that if you wind it into a ball a couple of times, it helps to break down the fibers a little bit and make it softer and easier to knit with. So I had originally wound all the yarn into cakes, and then I decided to wind them into balls twice. And what happened is the yarn was really twisting. So I took those balls of yarn and I wound them back into cakes on the ball winder, going in the opposite direction as I normally turn, just to see if that would take some of the twist out of it. And I wound them backwards twice. And it didn't really, that first one I knit with was very twisty. This one has been really easy to knit with as far as coming off the cake. It's not twisting at all. So my guess is just that first one was probably the one I had originally worked with back when I tried the sweater a few years ago. And, you know, and the others are less handled. So that's been really great. That's been an improvement. Another improvement has just been that I'm more familiar with the pattern, and so it's moving along a lot more quickly. And I think maybe my hands are just getting used to it because I am not finding that, sorry, I've just dropped a stitch here, I don't want to lose it. I'm not finding it as coarse to work with either. So that's good. I've actually been quite enjoying it, and I've trying to get in 8 rows minimum a day. This motif here is an 8-row repeat, and the rest are all 4-row repeats. So I'm trying to do an 8-row repeat every day just so that I keep working at it and it doesn't fall by the wayside. So I'll just adjust that a little bit. This is the center front of the sweater there. So you can see it's coming along quite well. Has kind of a reverse stockinette stitch hem, so it kind of curls under a little bit, and then this is the front, and then you've got a sort of the side motifs are just sort of vertical lines of lace, and then this is the back. It's interesting, it starts kind of just off the center back, so that 8-row motif runs down the back also. So I'm quite pleased with the progress I've made on that. I've really stuck with it. For reference, this is color 27 aubergine. That's actually it's less red than this. Has got a lot of red in it in the camera, but it's a little bit less red than that. But it's, that would be a fairly accurate representation. Let's see if it's, no, it's better further away, but anyway, you get the idea. Very nice purple. Oh, the thing with this is that it easily becomes unwound. When I was working with my first cake of it, the center of the cake kept coming out and getting wrapped around the outside strand that I was working with, and several times I had to go and untwist them, unravel them. It was not fun, so I'm glad that it's been a lot better since then. Definitely a more enjoyable project than I was anticipating it to be. Yes, week. A couple of things I'm looking forward to is Helen Stewart announced a second go-round of the Shawl Society. So I purchased that right away, and the first shawl is released, I believe it's May 4th, early May anyway. So I'm quite looking forward to that. I had a lot of fun with it the last time around, and I look forward to seeing what she comes up with next. And also, I think it was yesterday, Carol Feller announced a new knit-along, a mystery knit-along in the sense that you don't get a clue, you get your clues over a series of weeks, but you actually see the finished garment before you start. And it's a new sweater called the Sugarcane Cardigan. So I'm very tempted to jump into that one. I really like Carol Feller's style and her garments, and they always seem to fit really well. She has a new yarn that she has done this cardigan in. Now, I looked at what it would cost to order that. It's just beyond my reach right now, but I'm sure I have some. I believe it's a sport or DK weight that it is called for. I'm sure I can find something in my stash that will do. I have a blue yarn. I kind of need to dig out and take a look and see if it would be suitable. So, yeah, I think it'll be fun. So I haven't 100% decided if I'm doing it or not. I feel in a way like I've got lots going on, but so what, right? So if I don't finish it in time, well, that's okay. And if I'm enjoying it, that's what knitting's all about. So we'll just see. We'll just see how it goes. But I'm definitely thinking about it. I have a few acquisitions this week. When we got the news of the Shawl Society, I was very excited about it, and then very quickly came an email from Helen Stewart talking about the yarn for the project. So this email talked about it needing, her sample, one of the yarns had been done in Tosh Merino Light, and she said 1 or 2 colors. So what I failed to notice is she sent another email very soon after that said, hold on, that went out by accident. That was the yarn for the shawl 2 of the last series of Shawl Society. So we were going into Langley, that's about a 45-minute drive closer to Vancouver from here, on Saturday. So I'd asked my husband if he minded stopping at 88 Stitches, which is my favorite sort of local yarn shop, fairly close to home for me. And last time we had gone into Vancouver and we'd stopped very briefly there and I needed to just pick up a ball of yarn, but I didn't get time to look around. So I said, do you mind if we go a bit early and I can take my time and browse? So I thought I would go and get yarn for the first shawl. Well, found out later this actually is not what the first shawl is calling for, but that's okay. I know she does quite a few 2 skein shawls, and so I will use this for one of her future shawls or a future shawl, so I'm not too worried about it. But I picked up this beautiful, now that is not as bright and orangey pink as it's showing there. It is it's definitely bright, but it's not sort of fluorescent-y bright as much as it is here. Anyway, it's a beautiful pink, and it does have kind of a not really an orange tone, but a warm pinky fuchsia kind of tone. And this is sweet fiber yarn. And this is the, let's see if I bring it closer, sweet fiber. And this is the Sweet Merino Light, which is her version of Tosh Merino Light in the Crush colorway. And Sue is the owner of 88 Stitches, and Melissa, her daughter, is the dyer behind Sweet Fiber. So she always has some Sweet Fiber yarn in the shop. Very talented indeed. So anyway, yeah, I'm very excited to use this some point down the road, but I don't know what it's going to be for. But it never hurts to have pretty yarn on hand. And I don't knit many two skein shawls, and so I often find when, and Helen Stewart often does, so I have found I'm often scrambling for enough yarn to knit one of her patterns. So this is good. I've got a backup coming. I also, oh, I forget. I meant to check before the podcast. I'll add it in here. One of the members of our group, I was looking at her projects, and I was totally enabled by her to purchase this yarn. She had knit a pair of socks in it, and they caught my eye right away, and so I ordered this. And this is Opal Sweet and Spicy 3 in saffron, which is $91.21. And then while I was at it, I ordered some more, because you can't just buy one skein, right? Then you don't get free shipping. So this is Opal Hunter Twassers 2 series in color 2106, which I think translates to rain on a rainy day. So I thought that was very apt for where I live. We've had more than our fair share of rain so far this spring. And this is the Hunter Twassers 3 in Blind Venus, which I just loved all that, the primary colors in that one. Straight up really pretty. So it's nice they came. I'm going to show you how they were in the box, because they just looked so pretty when I opened up the box. See, they just fit perfectly, and that's what I had when I opened. So this one, when I finish the Sherlock socks, this is going to be my next plain sock cast on, because I've just been dying to knit it. What have I been reading this week? Well, I finished The Murder at the Vicarage and totally guessed wrong on who did it. In my defense, they made it, of course, look like it was this guy, and it turned out to be somebody else. And then I moved on to my next one in order of publication, which is Murder at Hazelmoor. And I've read a fair bit of that too, actually. It's been definitely keeping me engaged. It's a woman and her daughter rent a home from a gentleman, and he moves, I think it's 6 miles away to a cottage for the, temporarily while they're renting his home. And the woman and her daughter are quite social, and they had some of the nearby neighbors at their place, and they ended up doing turning tables, which seems to me sort of like a Ouija board kind of thing, only it's you're sitting around a table, and somehow, I don't know, I think the spirits are supposed to rap out knocks and things like that. And so what they learn in this table turning is that the gentleman who they had rented the house from is apparently dead. And so his good friend trudges through the snow just to make sure he's okay and finds him murdered. So now the search is on to find out who did it, who done it. So yeah, enjoying that one. And this has a detective, Inspector Narracott, and I don't remember if this character makes a reappearance in other books or not. It's been so long since I've read this one, and it's not a name that I remember. So I don't know if it's a one-time deal with him, because there's other detectives that make that become regulars of hers, like Miss Marple and Hercule Poirot. So I'll be interested to see if Inspector Narracott turns up somewhere else down the line. But anyway, in the meantime, that's really good. We were discussing in the group Sherlock Holmes, and I have never read Sherlock Holmes. I've watched the BBC, I think it's a BBC series of the first couple of seasons, and it's kind of set in modern London, so it's not the traditional Sherlock Holmes. So I decided I really need to do that. So I borrowed this book from my daughter, and it looks extremely old. It's actually only published, I think, in like look how beautiful the inside is. This beautiful paisley. And then the gold binding, or gold edges on the pages. Yes, 1976 copyright, but what it does contain, I guess Sherlock Holmes made his debut in 1891, and they were stories that appeared in the paper. The Strand, I guess it was. And so there's 24 stories in this collection here, and they do have the original illustrations, so those are really fun to see. It was also in the little intro, I guess the person who was hired to illustrate them, let me just find the information here, Sidney Paget, who did the illustrations for this, was commissioned in error. He had a brother named Walter, who was well known for illustrating some other works like King Solomon's Mines and Robinson Crusoe and Treasure Island. And so they thought they were hiring Walter, but hired Sidney by mistake. But I think these illustrations are really neat, so I think he did a good job anyway. So I've just read one story so far. I didn't realize Sherlock Holmes were all just short stories, so it doesn't take, too long to read them. And I already recognize the first one has to do with Irene Adler, which, if you know Sherlock Holmes and have watched, even if you've just watched the television series, you'll recognize that name. So it's interesting that even though this is set in 1888 and the series is set in modern times, they actually duplicated or were quite true to the story. So that's been fun to see. One of the people, members of our group, mentioned that, and I can see what she means. So yeah, so that's been a good addition. I'm looking forward to reading my next one when time permits. I was going to talk about a blast from the past. That's a segment that I quite often feature, a knitted or cross-stitched or quilted item from the past. But I just thought I'd talk a little bit today about a completely different kind of blast from the past. For those of you who are new, we had a flood in our downstairs just before Christmas, and the restoration work's been complete now, and we're just, our friend was over today just doing up part of the our own work. We had changed the flooring and needed a little piece of trim around the bottom of our baseboards in our spare bedroom there. And so we still have a lot of boxes that are in our garage that are gradually going to be gone through, and we'll sort what we're keeping and what we're throwing. And some of those boxes contain, mementos, or what I ended up doing today. We're having the kids over for supper on Sunday, and I thought it would be fun to pull out like their old boxes with their old schoolwork in it. like scrapbooks from, kindergarten and grade 1 and little journals. I didn't keep things much past, I think, about grade 4 or 5 because it's not as cute then or cute after that. But this morning this afternoon I was sorting through those things and, looking through these scrapbooks and reading the kids' journals, and just some were just really funny. One, my daughter's talking about how she has to walk home with her brother today, and he's a chatterbox, and she doesn't like it that he's such a chatterbox. And another one is my son describing me as that I have black curly hair and brown eyes, and I cook a variety of suppers. So just really fun to see what's on their minds, what they were writing about in their journals. And sometimes they're writing about events that I remember and recognize what they're referring to, and it's interesting to see those through their child eyes. So that was a completely different kind of blast from the past, and I don't have a lot to show with you. I kind of debated bringing a few things in here, and I know if they're not your children, it's not nearly as fascinating as if they are. So I just thought I'd share a couple things with you and just tell you how much fun I had going through those today. It was really neat. So this week, we had actually a very exciting week in my extended family. My niece had a baby boy yesterday. She wasn't due until May 5th, and she's had some concerns with this pregnancy, and so they decided to induce her, and then ultimately did a C-section yesterday. And the baby's arrived, a little boy. He's tiny, 5 pounds 5 ounces, but everything's okay. So it's very exciting. I know it's been. She actually lost miscarried. She's fairly far along about a year ago, and so this not only has she got that worry in the back of her mind, but then this pregnancy having some complications too. So we're all very, very excited that the baby's here and is well, and I can't wait to meet him and hold him. I actually just saw her for the first time since Christmas, I guess, on Sunday at her mom, my sister, hosted a family dinner, and so I got to see her like really pregnant, so that was kind of neat. And then none of us expected that just a few days later the baby would be here. So very excited for her and her husband, and for my sister too. This is their first grandchild, so now she gets to know what it's like. I remember when my grandson was born, I had Permagrin for like 24 hours. I'm sure it was such a special thing, and I know she's gonna just love being a grandma. So so we did have that family dinner on Sunday, and that was really nice. It was to celebrate our spring birthdays, which in this case was my husband and myself. And my mom wasn't there for it. That's probably the first time in a long time she hasn't made it to a family dinner. She lives out of town, and she had lots going on, so she decided not to come down this time. And then I have a sister in Toronto who's not there for very many family dinners. So, but we always miss her because it never feels quite complete without her and her husband. But we had a really nice time. It's always good to get together. And she made my sister is quite a cook, and she made 4 different kinds of pasta to choose from, and they were all delicious. So it was a great dinner, and it's always better when you don't have to cook yourself, right? And we'd had dinner the night before that with some friends. As I mentioned last week, my husband's best friend since kindergarten and his wife, and we haven't seen them for, I think we figured out 4 years. So it was really great to sit down and have a chance to just catch up. And I think by the time we actually, when we met up at the restaurant at 6 o'clock, and we left each other in the parking lot, I think it was about 11:15. So it was a very long dinner and lots of talk, but it was fabulous, and we are determined to do it again in just a few months so that we don't let that much time go by again. It's crazy, right? I know people are busy, but those are the things you need to find time for, and we're really bad for letting those things go. See what else? Oh, this week we also had my husband had his first ball game of the season. At the very first one got rained out, so this one looked like it might, but it actually cleared up, and it was quite a nice evening. It wasn't really warm. By the end, I was really chilled, but I keep score. He plays ball, but it was fun. It was good to get back into it. I felt a little rusty the first few games of the season. I always feel a little bit rusty keeping score, but you get kind of back into the swing of things before too long. We actually played the people who founded the team, their son. We're actually playing their son's team, so it's always fun when they're our opponent. They're way younger and way better than our team is, but it makes for a really fun game because we know each other, so it's that was good. And just checking my notes here. Oh yeah, I guess just this weekend's coming up, so it's Thursday evening now, and so my husband has 3 days off from work, so that's great. And we're going to have our brood over on Sunday for dinner, making roast beef. That's it's everybody's favorite meal. I actually picked up a turkey just because they were on sale with Easter coming up, but I put that in the freezer, and we'll have roast beef and mashed potatoes, Yorkshire pudding, all the trimmings instead, because I think that we just had turkey at Christmas, so we haven't had a roast beef dinner for a long time. So looking forward to that. This weekend I should be able to touch up the bit of trim that went in today. I can sand what needs sanding a little bit and do the touch-up painting, and so we should be able to move our bedroom furniture and toys, etc., back into that bedroom and get it back in commission. And then we're just waiting on a check from the insurance company. Then we can purchase our mattress for the other room downstairs, the one that did get flooded, and then we'll be able to get that one set up and back in use. So bit by bit, our downstairs is getting back to normal. The biggest job is going to be getting all those boxes out of the garage and sorting through them and purging, and then we can figure out what we need as far as shelves go in the new storage closets and get things put away once and for all. So it's kind of it's one of those things. It's sad that it happened, but at the same time, I'm finding things that I didn't remember I even had. Today I came across a bag of children's books, and I mean, my grandson is 6 years old, and if I'd realized back when he was born that I had these in there, I'd have pulled them out a long time ago. My oldest granddaughter, we didn't meet her till she was 3 or 4, so we missed that early stage in her life. But both my grandson and my younger granddaughter, love books. And some of them now we've even already gone past that stage with the really little baby books. And I wish I'd remembered I had those. I'd have pulled them out a long time ago. But there's still lots of time for, both of them. There's books from various, that suit various ages. So they will definitely get read and loved. So that was a happy kind of occurrence today to come across those and look through them. And again, these are the ones I kept are the kids' favorites, and which often were my favorites too. So I'm looking forward to reading some of those again to my grandkids the way I read them to my own children. So that was a very nice, happy occurrence today. So I think that's about it. I've beat my husband home, so that's always good. It's about 6:30, so I've been chatting for a while. So I'll go get this uploaded. I'm going to insert a couple of pictures. I have some spring flowers blooming right now, so I'm going to put a few shots of those in at the end. I hope your spring is springing where you live, if you live in the northern hemisphere. Spring is definitely late coming here. I talked to my mom this morning. She lives about 3 hours north of where I do, and when she first started talking to me, she said it had been snowing, but now it was raining. And then partway through our conversation, she looked out the window and it was snowing again. So I think she's kind of ready for winter to be done too. At least we haven't had rain. We had a really heavy downpour this afternoon with thunder and lightning. So that we haven't had in a long time, and some hail. So definitely spring storm. So those that yarn I'm knitting my spring showers socks with is very apropos. But yeah, spring, I mean, April showers, and then we'll have our May flowers, right? So just the way it is. So on that note, anyway, I hope the sun is shining where you are. It's supposed to shine here on Sunday, so hopefully it is for when the kids are over, and then they can at least go out and run around in the backyard. So if you have a long weekend ahead, enjoy it. If you celebrate Easter, happy Easter to you. And I am not sure if I will try and record late next week. We're going to be going away for the weekend to go visit my mother-in-law for her birthday. But I think I hopefully should be able to record next Thursday again and get the podcast up before we leave on Friday. So that's when I expect to talk to you again, and hopefully I have a couple things finished by then, because I've got some socks that are close to being done. So I will talk to you then. Have a great week and happy knitting. Bye.